Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to this video on the Gemini full moon happening on November the 27th. So this is the final full moon before we move into the solstice. So it is very potent for reflecting upon the last 11 months, what you have achieved. Full moons are a great time to celebrate, and that is often overlooked when we talk about the full moon energy. But because it acts as such a powerful amplifier, it's a wonderful time to look at how far you have come on that journey, the things that you were working toward manifesting, the goals that you have set that have now come to fruition. We often bypass a lot of those things because we're always looking at what's next, or we're on to the next, and we forget how far we have come on our journey. So taking that time to pause, to reflect, and to celebrate helps you to integrate, which fosters that feeling of gratitude as well. So we are going to dive right in here. I want to go over some of the highlights before I pull up my chart and we look at the main aspects that are at play this full moon. So let's begin with taking a look at Sagittarius season, because Gemini is the opposite sign of Sagittarius. So we recently entered Sagittarius season, which is an incredible time for expanding into new possibilities. With every zodiac sign, there's always like a phrase that comes to mind that I feel captures that energy. And with Sagittarius, the phrase is, "Don't fence me in." I see Sagittarius as the freedom-loving adventurer of the zodiac. It is the seeker. It's always looking toward what that next adventure is, expanding into something new. It is also very wise and has a spiritual element to it as well. So opposite Sagittarius is Gemini. So right now, of course, at the time of the full moon, we have the moon and sun in this opposition. And opposite signs in astrology are compatible energies. So both Sagittarius and Gemini are mutable energies. They are compatible, but they represent opposite traits. And it's often through looking at these oppositions that we find a sense of the whole. So where Sagittarius is more about the vision, more about the bigger picture, where we take our beliefs about the world and we implement them into a larger perspective, Gemini is where we collect the ideas, where we collect the information. And this full moon is a beautiful opportunity to upgrade your mindset. With Gemini, we become very aware about the thoughts that we are entertaining, the information that we are taking in. And Gemini and Sagittarius are very social. This is a very social axis. And the picture I have of Gemini is they love to collect like these fun facts, gather information and data, and share them with people around them. They're always filled with these like interesting facts and fun information. And in the highest octave, they are also very open-minded. So even though they have their opinions on different things, because they've done their research, they've collected the information, they're very open to hearing what other people think. And they love to engage in that dialogue that helps expand awareness, where you share ideas, where you share your perspective, but you're open to hearing what the other person thinks. And regardless of whether you're a Gemini or not. So we all get excited when we have a newer full moon in our sign, as we should. It's an energy that is part of our blueprint that we understand on a deep level. So anytime there is a newer full moon in our sign, we're going to often resonate more with the energies at play and feel it deeply. But you have, every single person, you have Gemini in your chart somewhere. It governs over a certain house placement, a certain area of your life. And, sometimes we forget this, or if we're just new to astrology, we feel like if we don't have planets in a certain sign, that energy isn't relevant to us. Now, in your birth chart, that is your soul blueprint, where you have planets are going to be more of a focus for you this lifetime. However, each of the 12 zodiacs do rule over a certain area of your life. So the more that you understand that energy, the more you understand that part of yourself. So with Gemini, we are encouraged to keep an open mind. We are encouraged to keep that childlike spirit. We are encouraged to ask questions. We are encouraged to challenge our belief system. And A quote that's coming through now, I believe, is by Dr. Wayne Dyer. I know often, especially with social media now, to try to find the origins of certain quotes or sayings can be a little more challenging. I always try my best. I know Dr. Wayne Dyer has said this in the past. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And that really captures the energy at play when we're feeling into the archetype of Gemini, questioning, challenging our belief systems, being aware of the stories we are creating around what is happening in our life. It's not so much the experience itself that shapes us, it's how we process what occurred, the conclusions that we come to that determine what we do next, that determine how we feel. So this full moon is a beautiful opportunity to look at what are the stories you are creating about your life? How are you processing information? And is the way that you are processing information, is that serving you? Or is it time for a little upgrade? The other thing I want to share here is when we first entered Sagittarius season this year, and this aspect is still at play at the time of the full moon, although it is lessening, we had the sun squaring Saturn. Sagittarius does not want to have a square to Saturn. Sagittarius is about adventure, exploration, big ideas, and expansion and new possibilities. And Saturn can feel like it restricts that energy. Saturn is about discipline and boundaries. And I know Saturn can get a bad rep at times, and I don't even mean to talk about it in that way because I believe all these energies serve us when we know how to work with them in a way that serves us. So this square between the sun and Saturn that we're still kind of feeling at the time of the full moon can help us be very intentional in the decisions we are making. So when we make decisions, we want to look at not just what feels good in the moment, but what would feel good a month from now, 3 months from now, a year from now. So Saturn really helps us be intentional about those decisions. The other way to look at it too can be, it's not just, does something feel bad in this moment, but I'll be happy that I took that action. So I often use the example with with working out and exercise. I don't always feel like working out and exercising in that moment, but I know I will be happy that I did. I know later that night, I'll be happy that I made that choice to work out. And then of course, over time, I know it's going to get the results that I desire. So sometimes we don't feel like doing something in the moment, or we're afraid to do it. We're afraid to take that leap, but ultimately it serves us to do it over time. So we can really work with the energy in that way. One more thing I want to mention before pulling up the charts. We're working with mutable energy. Mutable energy, and the reason we're working with mutable energy is Sagittarius and Gemini are both mutable signs. Mutable energy is adaptable. It is flexible. It is willing to move. It is willing to see things in a new light. So this is an opportunity to look at where you've become too rigid in your life, where you're feeling really bored with the same routine over and over, where it's time to try something new, embrace more adventure, make a new choice. And Sagittarius and Gemini, they really work with the mental plane. What I mean by that is the intellectual. They're very much about new ideas, taking in new information. And so these changes often start with our belief system, with the ideas we are entertaining, with the filter we have on that determines how we see the world. And are we attuned to the opportunities, or do we just see the limitations? This is the time to break through those limitations. Let's dive in and take a closer look at the chart here. So I'm going to pull this up. So Gemini full moon, we have the moon over here at 4 degrees of Gemini, opposing the sun at 4 degrees of Sagittarius. So this is the Sagittarius Gemini axes that we are working with here. So we actually have quite a bit of energy in Sagittarius right now, which makes sense. We're in Sagittarius season. We have Mars there and Mercury there as well. And Mercury rules over this full moon. It is the ruler of this full moon because it rules over the sign of Gemini. So I want to take a look at each of these energies here. So Mars is very happy in Sagittarius. Mars is what drives us, what motivates us, what pulls us forward. And it likes being in fire signs. It likes to be in Sagittarius because it brings out that exploration and that expansive energy. So Mars is also opposing the moon here. So again, this is being discerning about what you do choose to move forward with. And I'm not talking about being stuck in indecision forever. I never advocate for that. And these energies really aren't about that either. These energies are about making a decision and moving with it and not getting so caught up of, is this right? Is this wrong? Like, trust your intuition, but there's certainly an energy of being discerning about where you are giving your attention and your energy to. What is depleting you in your life? What is lighting you up? And do more of what lights you up. It sounds so simple, but we can get stuck in autopilot in our life where we are engaging in certain activities or thought processes out of habit rather than out of what we actually want. And that's the way our brain is wired. It looks for shortcuts. So that old saying of, if you want to know what the future holds, look at the past, or the past tends to repeat itself. There is truth to that. I find a lot of these sayings don't come from nowhere, but it's only true if we are not being conscious, if we are in autopilot, because then we're not questioning these habits and these programs that are running our life. Instead, they're running us. But as soon as we're able to really take a step back and look at what we are consciously choosing today, what once served you is no longer going to serve you, especially as we ascend collectively. Like, it's no surprise we are in a changing planet and the world is always shifting and changing. I feel at an accelerated pace these days, which we are all noticing as well. So we want to evolve and keep up with that as well. We want to look at being intentional about where we're giving our focus, what we are working toward. This can also be because Sagittarius is about your dreams. It's about the desires in your heart, and what you once desired, you may no longer desire. So it's helpful when we check in and question what we are working towards. Mars, what are we giving our energy toward? Now, Mercury here is in Sagittarius as well. Mercury is the communication planet. In Sagittarius, it is very outspoken. It is very like direct. And I think that's something to be aware of during this time as well. And not that we are responsible for how other people interpret what we say. Like, we can't. When we say something, when we share an idea, when we share our truth, when we share who we are, it's going to be filtered through that other person's lens, and they're going to come to their own conclusions about it. We can't control that process. However, we can be aware of the message we are wanting to convey. So sometimes with this energy, what can happen is we get confused about other people's reaction to us. We think we're conveying one thing, but somebody else, like, it's being lost in translation. So Mercury in Sagittarius definitely encourages us to open our throat chakra, to speak our truth, but we just want to be aware of like what we are actually conveying. And it can be impulsiveness with this energy too. So this is a good reminder to stop and pause and really look at, like, what is the outcome you want from different social interactions or scenarios that arise. Be aware of not just responding on impulse and then regretting it later. Like, really just take that moment to pause and look at, what's the outcome I'm moving toward here? And the word intentional coming through again, be intentional. So Mercury is in an exact square with Neptune in Pisces. Pisces is also a mutable energy. So they're both at 24 degrees. Neptune, 24 degrees of Pisces. Mercury is at 24 degrees of Sagittarius, an exact square formation. This is really about trusting your intuition. Things could seem a little hazy, like you're not quite sure where you're going next, how to move forward. That could always be said to be the case when Neptune comes into the mix. And that's why, if you followed my videos, I know you've heard me say this, with Neptune, it only becomes really confusing when we're trying to overthink, overanalyze, or be overly logical, when the role of Neptune is to trust our heart and to trust our intuition, to trust our instincts, to align with our higher self. So there's certainly an energy here of you you are moving forward. You have achieved a lot these past few months, and you're integrating it, and you're like calibrating to that new version of you that I talked about in my prior videos. You're calibrating to that. And you know, there's a lot to integrate here as, again, we move into the solstice as well. So really trusting your heart and your intuition as you move forward. And I know Gemini is very much about, it is more logical, it is more analytical, but with these aspects here, with Neptune in the mix, with some of these square formations, you definitely want to ultimately trust where your intuition is guiding you, and be okay with not knowing all the little details or how all the little pieces are going to come into play. You don't need to know that in order to move forward, in order to make a decision, in order to feel safe. Our unconscious mind thinks we do, but that's just something that can keep us stuck and trapped. We don't ultimately need to know that in order to move forward and make decisions in our life. The other aspect here that's not quite exact, but it's standing out for me, is this sextile, which is a harmonious aspect. So we have a sextile with Venus in the sign of Libra. Venus is the relationship planet, the love planet. So flowing in harmony here again, this is actually another reminder to trust your heart. What lights you up? Trust your heart. You know, if you're confused about it, it's probably because whatever decision you're making in your life, or if you hear me say do what lights you up and you don't know, have fun exploring what that is. Block out the noise, come back to your truth, because ultimately you do know. When we don't know, it's because we've taken in too much information that's not always aligned with our soul truth, and then it becomes very confusing. Or we look at what other people are doing to determine what our path is, which again, that's not the way to do it. We got to stay in our own lane. Stay in our own lane, trust where we are being guided. So that's a big energy that's at play here as well. Let me see what else is really standing out. So the shadow side of some of this Sagittarius energy here can be constantly seeking, but feeling like you're never fully arriving. So you're constantly thinking your joy is outside of you, or it's found in the next adventure, instead of your joy is where you are today. So this idea of the grass is always greener on the other side. No, the grass is green where you water it, be where you are. And it doesn't always have to be these huge changes in our life. It can be little things, little changes, like choosing to order something new when you go out for supper, choosing to maybe wake up a couple hours earlier so you have that space in the morning to meditate and ease into your day. These little changes compound over time. Now, I know with this Sag energy here, we may be thinking big picture, big changes. And for some of you, that may be what you're ready and called to do. So this is where we have to trust our own intuition with all of it. So I'm going to stop the share here. To sum this up, this is a powerful moon to celebrate, to integrate how far you have come in your journey, a powerful time to up-level your mindset, your belief system. We cannot outperform our belief system. If you're trying to achieve something, you're feeling really stuck, go back to what you believe is true. Do you believe it's possible for you to create this? Do you see yourself as a person that has the impact you want, the money you want, the relationship you want? And if not, you can change your mindset. We can rewire our brain. We can change how we see things. So we can't outperform our belief system, but we can upgrade it. We can change it so it does become aligned with what we desire to create in our life. So I also want to share with you for Black Friday, I had a special on readings. So that's going to be on until Monday, midnight Eastern. After that, I'm going to keep some spots open, but the price will increase. So if you want to sneak in, get $100 off a reading, you can do that with the Black Friday special. I'll attach all the Black Friday offers below, and also just other helpful links, Akashic meditations you can access for free. And if you want to come hang out on Instagram, I'll put that link below as well. All right, I am sending so much love your way. Have an amazing week. Enjoy these full moon energies. Bye for now.